Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, February 10th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-kyan. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea reported its largest on-year job losses in January for the first time in more than 2 decades, as the coronavirus outbreak continued to pummel the job market. New COVID-19 cases jumped above the 400 mark for the first time in 5 days ahead of the Lunar New Year holidays in South Korea. Meanwhile, health authorities are expected to announce their decision on whether to allow the use of AstraZeneca's vaccine, which would prompt inoculation to begin as early as February 26. And the World Health Organization-led investigation team looking into the origins of the COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan say there's no conclusive evidence the virus started at the Huanan market as previously believed. Now let's start with the latest employment figures in South Korea. Another devastating month as the country lost about 1 million jobs on year in January alone. Businesses are continuing to reel from the pandemic and the tight social distancing guidelines. The slide in January happened at the sharpest pace since the aftermath of the Asian financial crisis more than 2 decades ago. For more, we have our Ji-young on the line for us. Ji-young, a historically grim month for job seekers.
Yes, Mo-kyan. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the number of employed people in South Korea was around 25.8 million, down 982,000 from the same month the year before. Since last March, when the pandemic began to take its toll on the economy, the employment figures have dropped for 11 consecutive months on year, the longest period of on-year decline since 1999. The number of unemployed also surpassed 1.5 million for the first time. Job losses were seen across all age brackets, with those in their 30s losing the most at around 273,000 compared to the same period the previous year. The restaurants and lodging sector saw the most losses at around 367,000 jobs compared to last year, down roughly 16%.
Now, Ji-young, as we are enduring this crisis, I hear government officials are discussing plans to try and cope with this difficult situation.
Right, Mo-kyan. At a meeting of economy-related ministers on Wednesday, officials vowed to create around 900,000 jobs within the first half of this year and go all out creating them. Finance Minister Hong Nam-ki said Wednesday that he will draw up a third employment relief fund to the tune of some $8.3 billion to help those caught up in the crisis. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Mo-kyan.
Thank you, Ji-young. We appreciate it. And now on the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea, the country has seen a spike in the number of daily cases, reporting 444 new infections on Wednesday, jumping back above the 400 mark for the first time in 6 days. Of the new cases, 414 were locally transmitted and 30 were from overseas. 4 more people have died of the virus, raising the death toll to 1,486. The nation's total number of cases now stands at nearly 82,000. The AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine will be rolled out in South Korea from February 26, first for those working at medical care facilities for older adults and nursing homes. The government is preparing for the Pfizer vaccine as well, but that's coming in later than planned, pushed back to early March. Our Kim Sang-min has more.
South Korea's COVID-19 vaccination process could begin as early as February 26. According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency on Tuesday, enough doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to inoculate 750,000 people will be distributed on the 24th of this month, with vaccinations likely to begin from the 26th. For final approval, Korea's Food and Drug Administration will hold a meeting on Wednesday to examine its safety and effectiveness against people aged 65 or older. Once approved, AstraZeneca's will become the first vaccine to be administered in the country. Pfizer's was the first to receive emergency use authorization last week, but is expected to be rolled out later than expected in the beginning of March. Once the AstraZeneca vaccine is approved for all ages, the shots will be distributed to workers at medical care facilities for older adults and nursing homes as the first priority group set by the government. The KDCA will draw up a final list by next week, with the rest of the general public set to be inoculated in the latter half of the year. With vaccinations just around the corner, the government on Tuesday conducted its first simulation exercises for a smooth rollout of the Pfizer vaccine, known to have a complex storage process. Pfizer's vaccine needs to be transported and kept at around minus 70 degrees Celsius. And once defrosted, the vaccine is effective for only 6 hours.
Through this simulation training, we will check potential scenarios that may occur and will create vaccination guidelines and remedy any shortcomings.
The training also aims to find out how many people could be vaccinated within a given period of time and to prepare for any possible emergency situations. The government will come up with a set of guidelines to prevent any losses or delays. Kim Sung-min, Arirang News.
AstraZeneca's CEO has assured that its COVID-19 vaccine should work against severe infections, as studies have raised doubts on its efficacy against the South African variant. Meanwhile, the European Union has approved Russia's application to register its vaccine Sputnik V in a bid to ramp up vaccination in the bloc. Our Chen Min-jung has more details.
Amid concerns surrounding AstraZeneca's effectiveness against the South African COVID-19 variant, the chief executive of the drug maker underlined that its vaccine should work against severe strains of the disease. Speaking at a World Health Organization meeting on Tuesday, AstraZeneca's CEO Pascal Soriot acknowledged that its vaccine showed low efficacy rate against mild infection, calling it a concern. However, he stressed that the vaccine should still work in severe cases, as the efficacy rate varies according to the severity of the disease.
The patients in this study were patients with mild disease, and we believe that the vaccine should still protect against severe disease.
Soriot's remarks come after a new small-scale study of AstraZeneca's vaccine showed that it offers only 10% protection against the South African variant. Speaking to BBC Radio on Monday, a professor who led the trial revealed that the efficacy rate is far below the 60% mark and that the vaccine does not work against mild and moderate infection. On Sunday, studies conducted in South Africa also revealed that the vaccine is ineffective against the country's variant, forcing the government to pause its rollout of the vaccine. With slow vaccine distribution also being an issue for AstraZeneca in EU countries, the region is setting its eyes on the Russia-made Sputnik V vaccine. According to Russia's state-run news agency on Tuesday, the bloc approved Russia's application to register its vaccine. Now it is in the hands of the European Medicines Agency to grant Sputnik V conditional marketing authorization. Chen Min-jung, Arirang News.
The WHO-led investigation team in Wuhan say they have been unable to find conclusive evidence that the virus originated at the wet market in the city. China's health experts claim the virus that caused COVID-19 could have been circulating in other regions before being identified in Wuhan. Our Lee Seung-jae with more.
The WHO-led investigation team looking into the origins of the COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan say there is no conclusive evidence the virus had started in the Huanan market as previously believed. Instead, during Tuesday's press conference to release its first findings, the head of the team says bats remain a likely source, ruling out a lab leak. According to Peter Ben Emberek, who led the team in its nearly month-long visit to the Chinese city Wuhan, investigation points to a natural reservoir in bats, but is unlikely they were in Wuhan. Meanwhile, a top expert at China's health authorities said Tuesday that the virus that causes COVID-19 could have been circulating in other regions before being identified in Wuhan at the end of 2019.
Based on the research on data from different countries, we discovered that the circulation of COVID-19 could have been earlier than the earliest reported case by a few weeks. Huanan market may have been a major point of transmission for the virus, but at the same time, it seems that other parts of Wuhan might have also existed within the line of transmission.
During the team's 4-week stay in Wuhan, the probe focused on understanding what happened at the beginning of the outbreak in December 2019, looking to discover whether the first date of transmission happened earlier. However, it's still uncertain if it will ever find the truth behind the pandemic, which has caused over 2.3 million deaths worldwide. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has specified the direction for policies related to inter-Korean relations and external affairs. On day 2 of the plenary meeting of the ruling party's 8th Central Committee on Tuesday, Kim also laid out military tasks to be carried out by the People's Army. The North state media, however, did not provide details of the inter-Korean matters or the military tasks. Analysts point out that the North appears to be keeping the stance that the regime will act based on Seoul's policies as well as any moves by Washington. The plenary meeting is still ongoing with no end date announced yet. The United States has vowed to take a new approach when dealing with North Korea. Speaking at a press briefing on Tuesday, State Department Press Secretary Ned Price said the U.S. will adopt a new policy in, quote, close consultation and coordination with South Korea and its other allies. Price said the new administration will not move too soon, noting it's crucial for the allies to be on the same page when dealing with North Korea. The secretary dismissed concerns that the regime could take military action if the U.S. does not engage with them quickly. On day 1 of the second impeachment trial for former U.S. President Donald Trump, who is accused of inciting a deadly riot at the Capitol last month, a Senate majority voted that the trial is constitutional. Now, Trump's lawyers and Democratic impeachment managers will officially go into a debate session to establish their arguments. Lee Kyung-in with the latest.
The U.S. Senate will move forward with the historic second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump, having voted that it is constitutional to hold an impeachment trial of a former president.
On this vote, the ayes are 56, the nays are 44, and pursuant to S. 47, the Senate having voted in the affirmative on the foregoing question, the Senate shall proceed with the trial as provided under the provisions of that resolution.
6 Republicans voted with the Democrats, despite calls from fellow GOP members to dismiss proceedings. The voting came after 4 hours of debate between Trump's lawyers and Democratic impeachment managers who are accusing Trump of inciting the deadly riot in the U.S. Capitol in January. Democrats opened their presentations and focused on establishing what they called, quote, cold hard facts of the impeachment. Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland, the lead impeachment manager, showed vivid footage of the incident as well as Trump's address to his supporters.
We fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Trump's lawyers defended Trump's remarks, arguing they should be protected under freedom of speech, while repeating claims that the trial itself is unconstitutional. Now that the constitutionality question has been settled, the two sides will each get 16 hours over 2 days to establish their arguments starting Wednesday. However, in a 50-50 evenly split chamber, Democrats are unlikely to win the ultimate conviction as Republicans largely stand by Trump. Democrats are pushing for the trial nevertheless, which is seen as an effort to leave Trump with lasting political damage. Lee Kyung-in, Arirang News.
As confrontations between people and the military in Myanmar continue after the recent coup, there are rising concerns that tensions might simmer over. This comes as police fired live ammunition to disperse a throng of protesters, the first bloodshed since the military took over power. Kim Hyo-san reports.
Apparent gunshots were heard in Myanmar's capital city on Tuesday as the country's police cracked down on protesters opposing the military coup. Warning shots were fired from the top of water cannons that were used to disperse the crowd who took to the streets despite the junta's imposition of a gathering ban of more than 5 people and a night curfew. This has left at least 2 people seriously injured, raising concerns that the confrontation could escalate and involve violence going forward. The Burmese people, however, say that they will continue to fight against the military authorities.
Before the military coup, every day was a fresh morning in our country, motivated and livable. After the coup, it turned into a mess with protests and demonstrations. But we have become more active and more patriotic due to the movement.
Meanwhile, Myanmar police have reportedly raided the headquarters of the National League for Democracy, led by the country's civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi in Yangon on Tuesday. Citing party lawmakers, Reuters reported that a dozen policemen forced their way into the building late at night. Against the backdrop, the UN Human Rights Council says it will hold a special virtual session on Myanmar on Friday. The decision comes following a request from Britain and the European Union. They said the special session was needed, considering the importance and urgency of the situation. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
The United Arab Emirates is now only the 5th country and the first Arab country to successfully reach Mars. The Amal probe, or HOPE in English, made history Tuesday by entering orbit around the red planet. The success comes after a 7-month journey of almost 500 million kilometers. The Mars program is part of the UAE's effort to develop its scientific and technological capabilities and reduce its reliance on oil. While getting ready to send data about the Martian atmosphere and climate, the UAE Space Agency even has plans for a Mars settlement within the next 100 years.
Good morning. Much milder air is here ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday. Well, it was a cold but bearable morning, and daily highs will also rise to early March-like readings across much of the country. So afternoon temperatures will be hovering above the norms, going 2 to 3 degrees higher than yesterday. In southern parts, we'll see double-digit afternoon readings under mostly sunny skies. However, regions in the east are still dealing with dry air, with dry weather advisory remaining in place. Air quality will be decent through the evening, then dust levels will rise at night for central Indian regions. And it could remain dusty through the Seollal holiday weekend with very warm readings in the forecast. It's going to feel more like late March than mid-February across the country under mostly sunny skies. Jeju and the south coast will see rain on Sunday, which could linger into next Monday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
The Korean government has announced they will begin providing vaccinations to people in February, according to their